When my daughter said, "You're too slow, Mum," then drove off and never came back, I just stood there. I didn't chase her, I didn't shout after her, I just stood on that cracked driveway watching her taillights disappear, my hands still holding the pie I baked, because she used to love my pies. That day the wind was cold, but it wasn't just the weather. It was something deeper than that, a kind of cold that sinks into your chest. I wasn't angry. I think I was tired. You know, life has a way of sneaking up on you. One day you're holding your child's hand, walking them to their first day of school. Then, somehow years pass, and their hands are no longer reaching for yours. They want to run ahead. And you're just in the way. I didn't expect things to turn out like they did. We had a good family once. We laughed around the table, we took road trips, we baked cookies together on Sundays. But something shifted, slowly, quietly, without shouting, without drama. And that's what breaks your heart the most. Not the yelling, but the silence. I suppose I should start from the beginning so you understand how we got here. My name is Evelyn. I'm 68 years old now. For most of my life I was just a mother, a quiet one. I met my husband Gerald when we were both very young. He had a kind face, gentle eyes. He loved fixing broken things, radios, clocks, cars, anything. We started a small life on the edge of town, nothing fancy. A modest house, wide porch, an old maple tree at the corner. It was home. We had 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. But today, I want to talk about my youngest, Emily. Emily was a soft child, shy like me. She used to cling to the hem of my dress whenever we had visitors. "I don't want to talk to strangers," she'd whisper. She loved colouring books and bedtime snuggles, and she had the sweetest little laugh whenever her brothers tried to tickle her. I remember her hair always smelled like strawberries, probably from that shampoo she insisted on using. Even when I tried to save money with the generic brand, she'd say, "It has to be the strawberry one, Mummy." And I always gave in, because she was my baby. As the years passed, the boys grew independent faster. They had friends, sports, part-time jobs. But Emily and I stayed close. We spent weekends baking cookies, bagging food for the church pantry, repainting the hallway walls just because she thought the colour was too boring. When she was 12, she wrote me a card that said, "When I grow up, I want to be just like you." I cried for an hour in the laundry room after reading it. Back then, I thought we'd always be close. I thought she'd always come to me when life got hard. But life doesn't always follow the promises children make. Time passed. Emily went away to college, just a state over, but it felt like a world away. At first she called me every Sunday just like clockwork. We'd talk about classes, boys she liked, what she was eating. Then it was every other Sunday. Then once a month. Then only when she needed something. I told myself it was normal. Kids grow up, get busy, they have their own lives. But I missed her. Badly. I used to sit on our old porch swing, listening to the wind chimes she gave me for my birthday. She had said, "So you can hear me even when I'm far away." I clung to that. Every time those chimes moved, I imagined she was thinking of me. Eventually, she met someone. His name was Mark. They married after a year of dating, a quiet little ceremony in a park. She didn't want anything big. No drama, no guests, just the 2 of us, and you if you want to be there, Mum. I blinked when she said that. If I wanted to be there. Of course I did. But something about the way she said it felt distant. Still, I went. I wore the blue dress she used to say made me look pretty, like the sea. I packed her favourite tea for after the ceremony. But when I tried to give it to her, she just smiled politely and said, "Oh, I don't really drink that anymore." As if it was from a life she no longer remembered, a version of her that had been left behind. After the wedding, I didn't hear from Emily for a long while. 6 months passed, then 8. Then one winter morning I got a call. She was expecting a baby, and she asked me, gently, carefully, if I wanted to come live with them for a while, to help. She said they couldn't afford a nanny, said she needed someone she could trust. In that moment, every part of me lit up. "Yes," I said, without a second thought. Of course, yes. I sold my old house, packed my things, tied my aprons and tea towels into a neat little bundle, and I moved into their neat, modern house in the city. Everything looked shiny and clean and a little too quiet. Emily hugged me when I arrived. It wasn't tight, but it was something. Mark shook my hand. He was polite, cool, friendly enough, but he didn't smile much. His eyes always seemed fixed on his phone. Still, I told myself, it's okay. New beginnings are always a little awkward. For the first few weeks after the baby came, sweet little Lily, I felt needed again. I woke up early, made breakfast, took care of diaper changes, burping, lullabies. Emily slept. Mark went to work. And I was content just rocking Lily by the window, humming old lullabies from a time that now felt like another lifetime. But somewhere in those quiet months, the house changed. The air grew thinner. Sometimes I'd walk into a room and they'd stop talking. Other times they'd forget to invite me to dinner at the table, and I'd sit eating mine by the sink, trying to pretend I wasn't hurt. I thought maybe I was just imagining it. Maybe they were tired. New parents are always tired. But my heart knew. There was distance growing again, just like it had once before. Only this time I was under their roof. And it's a very particular kind of pain to feel unwelcome in a house you help care for. One evening, I heard Emily talking quietly to Mark. I was doing dishes. They didn't know I could hear. The baby monitor in the kitchen had been left on. Emily said, I feel like I have to take care of two babies, Lily and my mom. Mark didn't say much, but he sighed, and that sigh broke my heart in two. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to be the slow one. So I just started doing less. No more cookies, no piano music, no humming, just silence. The kind that wraps around a person when they feel too old, too forgotten, too slow. It's strange how something can slip away without making a sound. Not like something breaking, but more like something melting. Slow, quiet, unnoticeable at first. But then, before you know it, it's just gone. That's what happened with Emily and me. Our relationship didn't fall apart all at once. There was no argument, no slammed doors, no shouting, only small things. Small things turning into bigger things. Words left unsaid. Smiles that didn't reach her eyes. And I think that's what made it hurt the most. There wasn't one moment I could point to. No clear reason to cry. But still, every night I sat quietly in that little guest room, and my chest felt heavy. The house was always so quiet now. Mark worked late. Emily took care of Lily by herself more and more. She didn't ask for my help much anymore. I always offered. But she'd say, "It's fine, Mum, I've got her." Or, "You don't need to do that today, just rest." She meant well. Or at least, I think she did. But it almost felt like I didn't have a place anymore, like they were trying to gently phase me out without having to say the hard part out loud. Then came little moments. One afternoon I brought Lily outside on the porch to get some sunlight. She loved the breeze on her face. She'd giggle. Such a sweet sound. Emily came home early and found us sitting there. She didn't smile. Her voice got tight. "Mum, I don't want her outside without a hat." I nodded. I had it, but she pulled it off. I was holding her the whole time. Emily sighed. "You know babies can't regulate heat the same way, right? It's not safe." I didn't say anything else. I just kissed Lily's forehead and went inside. That night I cried in the laundry room again, same as I did all those years ago, but this time it wasn't from joy. Another day, I folded a basket of baby clothes, just trying to help. I loved folding those tiny onesies. the way they smelled like baby powder and lavender. But when Emily came in, she just stood there watching me. Not angrily, just coldly. She said, "I had those sorted a certain way." I apologized. Of course I did. She didn't respond. She just walked out of the room, like I wasn't even there. Mark wasn't unkind, but he wasn't warm either. We spoke only when necessary. He always had headphones in, or worked on his laptop at the dinner table. Once I asked if he liked the chicken soup I made. He looked up, barely, and said, "It's fine, thanks. Fine. Not good. Not tastes like home. Just fine." I know this sounds small to anyone listening, but when you give your whole life to caring for people, when food is how you say "I love you," fine can feel colder than silence. Then came the incident with the stroller. It was a Sunday morning. Emily and Mark had gone to the store. Lily had just fallen asleep in my arms. I decided to take her for a short walk around the block. Nothing far. Just a little stroll. The kind my own mother used to take me on. When Emily got home and saw the empty stroller by the door, she panicked. She ran out to the yard. "Mum, where's Lily?" I came walking up the driveway a moment later, carrying Lily, who was still sleeping peacefully. Emily rushed over, eyes wide. She took Lily from my arms too fast. "You can't just take her out on your own like that." I was stunned. I was just walking around the block, just 5 minutes. She didn't yell, but her voice held something colder. "You didn't ask." Mark stood behind her, arms crossed. I looked at both of them, and I realized in that moment I didn't belong here anymore. Not in the way I thought I did. The next few days were quiet. Emily barely spoke to me. Lily still smiled, still reached for me, but I noticed Emily picking her up faster, holding her longer, keeping her close. One morning, I came out early to see Lily already eating in the kitchen with Emily. They didn't hear me right away. Emily was whispering to her, speaking softly like mothers do, that special voice. And then I heard her say, "You're my girl now. Just mine. Just us." A chill ran through me. Just us. As if I had no place in that us. If anyone asked, I would have said I was happy to help. That I loved being there. That I didn't mind sleeping in the small room, or being left out of plans, or eating dinner later after everyone else had finished. But the truth? I was shrinking. Every single day I was folding myself smaller, quieter, trying not to take up too much space. Then, something happened that I'll never forget. It was Lily's first birthday. I had baked her a pink cake, strawberry, just like Emily used to love, decorated it with little sugar daisies. I spent the whole morning making it. I thought maybe this would be a moment to remember, a family moment. But when I brought it out to the table, the room went strange. Emily looked at it, paused and said, "Oh, we already ordered a cake from that bakery down the street." I blinked. "Oh, I didn't know. I just thought..." She gave a tight smile. "It's okay, Mum, but this one might be too sweet for Lily anyway." I stood there, still holding the cake. Mark brought in the bakery box, placed it right next to mine. People started taking pictures, smiling. Lily laughed in the high chair. No one cut my cake. It just sat there, quiet, untouched, just like me. I stayed up late that night, cleaning frosting from plates, picking up confetti from the floor. I couldn't sleep. So I stood by the window watching the streetlights flicker. That was the first time the thought entered my mind. Maybe I should leave. Maybe they'd be better off. Less tension. More space. Maybe that's what this all meant. That my time here, my time as mom, was over. I began packing a little bag. Nothing much. Just one dress, a sweater, my toothbrush, my Bible. One photo of me and the kids when they were young, before everything became complicated. I wasn't planning to say anything just yet. Needed to be ready. But Emily noticed. Of course she did. She came into the room that afternoon holding a pair of baby socks in her hand. "What are you doing?" I didn't lie. I was just thinking it might be time for me to go. She sat on the arm of the chair across from the bed, looked at the floor. Her voice was low, not angry. "You don't have to do that." But there was no warmth behind it. No, "please stay." Just words. Empty words. I nodded. "That's okay. I think I do." And still, I waited. I stayed 2 more days, just to be sure she'd say something, just to see if she'd ask me to stay, hold my hand, say, "I still need you, Mom." But she didn't. Every morning I woke up to silence, and every night I fell asleep with my back turned to the door that no one knocked on. Then came that morning. I had packed my things carefully, just one trip to the car. I made breakfast, my last one. When Emily and Mark came into the kitchen, I stood by the table. I smiled, offered coffee, even made toast. Just how Emily liked it, with cinnamon sugar and a little bit of butter. She was scrolling through her phone. She looked up once, right as I reached for her mug, and she said it. "You're too slow, Mum." And then she picked up her keys, kissed Lily's forehead, and walked out the door. I didn't even have time to reply. That day, after Emily said those words and drove away, I just stood there, still holding the pie I had baked earlier that morning. Her favourite kind, strawberry rhubarb. She didn't even notice it, didn't look at my hands or the small ribbon I tied around it. She just walked out the door, down the steps into her car, and when the engine started, it felt louder than usual. I watched until the sound disappeared, until her car turned the corner and faded into the distance. I remember thinking, this is what it looks like. This is the moment when a mother becomes invisible. I didn't cry, not right away. Instead, I sat down, right there, on the front step, pie on my lap, fingers trembling a little, not from the cold, but from something inside. A kind of shaking you can't warm away. That whole day was quiet. Lily napped longer. Mark was working from home but never came downstairs. I stayed to myself, folded a few of Lily's sweaters, wrote a note and left it on the kitchen table. "Thank you for letting me be part of this chapter. I'm going to take a little time away. I love you always. Mum." I didn't pack much, just the same little bag. I called a neighbour from my old town. Her name was Susan. She was kind, offered to let me stay in her spare room for a few weeks, just until I figured things out. She didn't ask questions, only said, "Come, we'll have tea ready. Cinnamon, if you still like it." And I did. On the drive there, I didn't listen to music, just silence, me and the hum of the highway. The clouds were thick that day, the kind that hang low and make everything feel a little dimmer. As I drove past the old exit to my house, the one I sold to move in with Emily, I felt something deep in my chest. Not grief, not regret exactly, but something close, like standing at the edge of something you can't go back to, a place where you once belonged. Susan's home was simple, warm, no toys scattered across the floor, no new baby smell, no monitor beeping quietly in the corner. It was quiet, a very different kind of quiet than the one I'd left behind. This quiet was peaceful, gentle, kind. She made me tea. And as we sat there, I looked down at the mug, hands wrapped around the warmth, and I whispered, "I think I'm not needed anymore." She didn't try to fix it, didn't give advice. She just nodded. "There's a difference between being needed and being wanted," she said softly. "You deserve both." And that's when I cried. Really cried. Not a single tear behind closed doors, but the kind that shakes your shoulders, that turns into gasps, that pulls up every silent moment you swallowed for years and lets it out all at once. It's strange how sadness waits for space. how you can hold it all in for so long. Days become months, moments bury themselves in your chest like small stones, and then, in a kind voice, in a safe room, it all comes out. I stayed with Susan for 3 weeks. In that time, I realised something. I didn't really know who I was now that I wasn't someone's mother in the way I'd always been. For so many years, I filled my life with caring, cooking, folding, holding, but I hadn't given myself much room to just be me. So that's what I began doing. Each day I gave myself tiny things: a walk to the corner bakery, a short journal entry, a bird-watching book from the thrift shop, a small candle lit at night just because it smelled like pine trees. These don't sound like much, but they stitch something back together inside me, piece by tender piece. Still, I kept thinking about Emily. Did she notice I was gone? Was Lily asking for me? Was she angry? Or, worse, nothing at all? Maybe my absence didn't change anything. That thought was the hardest of all. Not that she missed me, but that she didn't. One afternoon, Susan handed me a letter. No return address, just my name. Inside was a folded note from Emily. Her writing looked rushed, but I could tell it wasn't something she wrote easily. It said, "Mom, it's been quiet here. I didn't know how much you did every day until you weren't here to do it. Lily keeps pointing at the hallway, wondering where her gran went, and I keep trying to pretend I'm not sad. But I am. I'm sorry for saying you were too slow. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I was tired, frustrated, but that doesn't excuse it. I guess I thought you'd always be there. Just there. Like air. Like a soft old blanket that never complains but is always wrapped around you. And now it's cold here. Without you. I love you, even if I don't say it well. Maybe I took too much for granted. Can we talk?" I stared at that letter for a long time. And then, for the first time in many, many weeks, I smiled. Not a big one. Not the kind that reaches your teeth, but the kind that settles back into your chest like a blanket pulled up on a tired night. Warm, quiet, a little hopeful. I called her. Her voice cracked when she answered. "Hi, Mum." That's all she said. But it cracked something open in both of us. We didn't say much. I didn't need a long apology. I didn't even need an explanation. Sometimes all a mother wants is that tiny voice returning. That reaching hand. That open door. Emily asked me to come back, just for a visit. To see Lily again. To talk. To sit. She said she didn't expect me to stay if I didn't want to. But there were things she needed to say out loud, and things she needed to listen to as well. The day I went back, the sky was clear, brighter than before. When I pulled into the driveway, Emily was standing at the door, holding Lily on her hip. She looked different, not in her face, but the way she stood, like someone who had been waiting and hoping. She walked up and without saying anything, she hugged me. Not a polite hug, not quick, but long, strong. Lily reached her arms for me. "Gran," she said with that baby voice I missed so much. I closed my eyes, and in that moment, with arms around both of them, I didn't feel invisible anymore. There were still hard things to talk about. Pain doesn't vanish just because someone says sorry. But we were talking now. That's where healing begins. Coming back to Emily's house wasn't easy. Even though she'd asked me to visit, even though she opened the door with a soft smile. Forgiveness isn't like flipping a switch. It's more like healing a bruise. At first, it hurts just to touch it. Then slowly, day by day, the pain softens, then fades. And one day you realize it's just a memory. That first evening back, we didn't talk much. She gave me the guest room again. The same soft yellow sheets, the same tiny lamp by the bed. But something about it felt different now. I wasn't being tucked away, I was being welcomed. She even left a little note on the pillow. It said, "Thank you for giving us another chance." The next morning I woke early like I always do, made tea, Watched the sun come up. The house slowly came alive. Lily was the first to greet me. She toddled into the kitchen in her socks, climbed into my arms and tucked her face in my neck. "Grandmama," she mumbled. It made my whole chest tighten. In that moment I knew. There were still tiny pieces of me that hadn't been lost. Still a little space in this world where I was needed, or maybe not needed, just wanted. Emily came into the kitchen a little while later. No makeup, messy ponytail, sleep in her eyes. But she looked at me differently this time, like she could finally see me. She sat down at the table, held her mug with both hands, and then she said something that will stay with me forever. "Do you know what I remember most about my childhood?" I shook my head. She said, "It was you, in the kitchen, humming, always humming. That sound meant everything was okay, safe." I forgot I used to hum. I forgot that small things like that matter. She looked at me and added quietly, "I miss the sound of you in this house." We talked for a long time that day, longer than we had in a very long while. She told me how hard motherhood had been, how exhausted and overwhelmed she'd felt. "Everything came at me so fast," she said, "and I didn't know how to do it all. And when you were here, I felt like maybe I wasn't enough." That explained so much. I reached across the table, took her hand, and I told her, "You were never supposed to do it all. You had me, and I'll always be your mother." She looked down at our hands. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I was scared to need you too much." The days that followed were peaceful. We didn't rush anything. We moved slowly, like dancers learning how to trust each step again. I'd hold Lily while Emily napped. And this time, she thanked me. We cooked meals together, simple ones, rice and soup, toast with jam, things that didn't need to be perfect. One evening, Emily came around the corner, heard me humming while folding a dish towel and smiled. "There it is," she whispered, "that sound." And I smiled too, just a little. But it meant the world. Mark was quieter in all this, but even he softened with time. He came home once with a surprise, a new rocking chair for the porch. He said, "I noticed you always sat on the steps. Figured this might be better." I nodded slowly. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. That simple act told me maybe he saw me too in his own way, not as an old woman in the way, but as someone trying her best just like them. One afternoon, Emily asked me if I wanted to come with her to Lily's doctor visit. Just us, like when I was little. So we went. And sitting in that waiting room, her reading a magazine, me flipping through a baby book, I had a moment of stillness. Like time had folded in on itself. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was part of the picture again. As the weeks went on, we had days of light, and a few days with old shadows, moments where the past threatened to rise up again. But the difference now was the willingness to name it, to say, "That hurt. I didn't mean it like that. I'm trying." That's what healing looks like, I think. Not pretending everything is fine, but being brave enough to sit in the quiet spaces, together. One morning, Emily sat next to me while I was sorting laundry on the couch. She said, "Do you think you'd want to move in again? For good?" I looked up, surprised. Not because she said it, but because of how she said it. This time, she didn't sound unsure. She wasn't asking for help. She was offering a place, a home, a shared life. Not as a helper, not as a spare pair of hands, but as a mother, as someone loved. I smiled, gently shaking my head. "Not just yet," I said. "Why?" she asked. And I replied, "Because it's good for us to miss each other, just a little. So we remember not to take too much for granted." She smiled, nodded slowly. "That's fair. I still visit them often, sometimes for 2 days, sometimes a week. We found our new rhythm, looser, softer. full of grace. Lily loves to help me in the kitchen. She wears the tiny apron I made for her, and every time she stirs pancake batter, she looks up at me and says, "I do like you, Gran." And I kneel down, kiss her forehead and say, "Oh, and I like you too, more than you know." Looking back now, I understand what really happened. It wasn't just about me being slow. It wasn't even about the argument, the cake that went untouched, or folding the baby clothes the wrong way. It was about time. About all the time we'd lost, and the time we were quietly afraid of losing. We don't talk about that much. How scary it is when things change slowly, when roles shift and people we love look at us differently. Emily looked at me, and instead of seeing her strong, capable mother, I think she saw someone who was aging, someone she'd have to take care of, someone she didn't quite know what to do with. And I looked at her and saw a little girl who didn't need me anymore. We were both grieving, but we didn't know how to say it out loud. Now, some days I still feel slow. I forget people's names sometimes. My knees ache. I take longer to open jars. But I've learned something important, something I wish I had known sooner. Just because I'm slower doesn't mean I have nothing to offer. Love isn't measured in speed, or efficiency, or calendars, or clean laundry. Love is in the way you wait for someone to hear you. It's in holding hands through silence. It's in choosing to stay close even after the hard things have been said. I'll never be the mother I once was, and Emily. She'll never be the little girl who once wrote me cards or begged me for strawberry shampoo. But we're still us. Just changed. Grown in different directions, but rooted in the same soil. Sometimes now, when I'm rocking Lily to sleep, I hum just like I used to. And even at 2, she hums back. Out of tune, high-pitched but eager. And when I look down at her, I think, this is enough. I may be slower, quieter, not always invited to the table first, but I'm here, still loving, still holding, still singing. You know, the world doesn't always know what to do with aging mothers. We're often pushed aside because we seem fragile or no longer useful in the way we once were. But I think there's a lot of strength in softness, and sometimes the quietest people in the room have the deepest love to give. When Emily said, "You're too slow, Mom," I know now. What she meant wasn't about my hands or my feet. She was saying, the pace of my life is outrunning yours, and I'm scared to slow down because I might feel everything I'm rushing past. And I was the mirror who showed her what slowness really meant. Gentleness. Grace. Care that doesn't demand anything. I don't resent her. I never did. Even in my hurt, I knew she loved me. She just couldn't say it clearly because maybe no one ever taught her how to speak that kind of love to an aging parent. I understand now. Love doesn't always arrive in perfect sentences. Sometimes it shows up late, shaky, wrapped in insecurity or silence. But if you wait long enough, if you stay still just a moment longer, you'll hear it. If I could speak to someone out there, someone like me, a mother, a grandmother, someone feeling forgotten, or maybe just slowly fading from the spotlight, I would say, you are still worthy of love, even if no one says it today, even if the room gets quiet when you enter, even if your hands are slower, your memory softer, your voice quieter. You still matter. Because the love you gave, the quiet care, the years of sacrifice, those things don't disappear. Even when they're not acknowledged, they are felt. And eventually, they return. So now, Emily and I move slower together. We talk more. Hold each other longer when we hug. Keep fewer secrets. Say things when they need to be said. No more guessing. No more distance pretending to protect us. There's something beautiful about rebuilding a relationship when both people admit they made mistakes. We are softer now, and maybe a little stronger. I used to think the story ended when someone walked away. But I've learned Sometimes the story really begins when someone is brave enough to come back, and even slower mothers can be part of that story. One step, one word, one small, healed silence at a time. Thank you for listening to mine.